Sura was not discussed for 1 year. 1 year after the killing, then the cowherd boys, the real cowherd boys, came home with Kṛṣṇa, and they said, you know what happened today? Kṛṣṇa killed the Aghasura demon, this big snake, and blah, 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 blah. So this was a very strange thing, why it wasn't discussed for 1 year. And of course the answer is that Brahma had stolen the cowherd boys and kept them in mystic slumber for a whole year. But nobody noticed that they were gone because Kṛṣṇa expanded himself as exact copies of all those cowherd boys and calves. The only person who noticed was Balaram. You know that story? No? It's a very esoteric story. That one day, the cowherd boys and the calves, Kṛṣṇa and Balaram and the cowherd boys and the calves were all out in the forest. And the cows were up on Govardhan Hill with the men. See, the way it worked is that the calves, the boys took care of the calves, and the men took care of the adult cows and bulls. So when the cows saw their calves, they couldn't restrain their affection, and they began to run down the hill, and the cowherd men couldn't do anything to stop them. And their milk bags, it's described, their milk bags began to overflow with milk out of affection at seeing their calves. And when they came to their calves, they began to lick them all over and show so much affection like that. And Balaram was looking at this and going, wait a minute, what's going on here? This is something tricky. Because they never normally show so much affection for their calves. And similarly, the mothers of Vrindavan were overflowing with affection for their sons. The fathers came down and they were hugging their cowherd boys and, like, you know, petting them and smelling their heads, which is an expression of affection in Vedic culture. So Balaram is going, wait a minute, what's this all about? They don't, you know, there's no need for so much display of affection. It's just another day out in the cow pastures, you know. What's the big deal? And he began to think, they're expressing their affection for their sons, and the cows for their calves, just like they feel for Kṛṣṇa. I've got it. These cows and these calves and cowherd boys are actually Kṛṣṇa. And so he went to Kṛṣṇa and he said, this is, you're actually, and Kṛṣṇa goes, yeah. You guessed it. So Balaram was the only one to catch on. Nobody else noticed. But their affection for their own children had become just like their affection for Kṛṣṇa. Incomparable. These are all pure devotees. So their affection for Kṛṣṇa is like far greater than even their own children. That's the sign of a devotee, that Kṛṣṇa is the most beloved object of his love. So then later on, there's another part of this story. Later on, well, like the next day, from Brahma's calculation, he went to visit Kṛṣṇa in Dwarka. Of course, it's actually about 50 years later, right? Because Brahma, according to his calculation, one day is like 50 years or 100 years of Earth time here. Might have even been later in the same day, according to Brahma. So Brahma came and visited Kṛṣṇa in Dwarka, and he went into the waiting room. And Krishna's secretary, Uddhava, says, please sit down and I'll announce you. So he went in and he said, Kṛṣṇa, Lord Brahma is here to see you. So Kṛṣṇa said, which Lord Brahma? What's his name? And so Uddhava came out and said, which Lord Brahma are you? And Brahma was bewildered. He was like, well, I'm the Lord Brahma, you know, the father of the four Kumaras. So that, Uddhava went back in, and then he said, okay, come on in. And so Lord Brahma came in, paid his obeisances, and Kṛṣṇa said, well, why did you come here and see me today? And Lord Brahma said, well, I'll get to that in a minute. First, I have a doubt. I have a doubt, and I ask you please to overcome this doubt. He said, aren't I the only Brahma in this universe? Well, why did Uddhava ask which Brahma? And so Lord Kṛṣṇa said, oh, okay, you need a lesson. So he meditated for a minute, and immediately thousands and millions of Brahmas and thousands and millions of Shivas came to that place, and they all paid their obeisances to the Lord. And the helmets on their heads, you know, they wear these very valuable helmets, all made this tumultuous sound when they bowed their heads on the ground. None of them could see the others. They all thought that they were there all by themselves. So thousands and millions and billions, uncountable Brahmas with thousands and millions and billions of heads. They came and they all paid their obeisances. And Lord Kṛṣṇa said, very good. So everything is well with you. And they all said together, yes, Lord, by your grace we are victorious over the demons. And everything is great. Okay, you can go back to your universes now. And they all left. And so here's our poor four-headed Brahma. Thinking, oh my God. And he asked Kṛṣṇa, you mean all those are like, Kṛṣṇa says, yeah. Your universe is the smallest universe. That's why you only have 4 heads. And these other Brahmas have tens and thousands and millions of heads because they need them, you know. They need that much intelligence to manage their universes. Their universe is so much bigger than yours. So just try to understand. Here we are, we're living in this universe, and we're very proud. We're thinking, oh yes, this is the great material world, huh? But actually it's the smallest, least complicated universe in Krishna's creation. And still it's bewildering to us. Completely bewildering. Huh? The scientists, they don't have a clue. They don't have a hope of figuring out what's really going on, because this universe seems to extend to infinity in all directions. Yet we know from Shastra that this universe is actually just about 4 billion miles in diameter. In other words, the universe is approximately the size of the solar system. The solar system is an organic thing. We're only seeing a projection of it in 3 dimensions, but the universe is actually has many, many more dimensions that we can't see because of our limited senses, our limited intelligence, just like Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma was thinking, oh yes, I am the master of the universe. I'm a big deal around this neighborhood, you know. But then Kṛṣṇa showed him, oh, there's so many bigger universes and so many Brahmas with more heads and like that. So you're actually small fry. So similarly, we think, oh yes, our universe is so great and all of this. But actually we're just seeing a very limited aspect of it, very limited projection, just like a shadow. If I have a 3-dimensional object, I'm trying to find an example here. If I take an object like my hand and project a shadow on this book, there's a light up here which you can't see, but it's projecting a shadow on this book. I don't know if you can see it. It looks like my hand is 2-dimensional. Actually, of course, my hand is 3-dimensional. But because it projects a shadow on a flat surface, the shadow looks 2-dimensional. Okay, and a projection in general always has fewer dimensions than the actual object. So similarly, it's quite possible for a higher dimensional object to have a 3-dimensional projection. And that's exactly what we've got going on here. The Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam describes the actual formation or the actual structure of the universe, called the Bhumandala. And the Bhumandala has a series of concentric rings that correspond roughly to the planets and their orbits and in the space around the sun. And but this is a higher dimensional description. The three-dimensional projection of that description is like the solar system that we see with the planets and lots of empty space. And actually, of course, the space isn't empty. It's not. It's full of energy. You see, it's full of plasma and things like that. But we can't see that. We can't see the magnetic and electrical fields and all the structure that's actually there, even in the three-dimensional space. So our senses are so deceptive.